Hello, my friends. Suit Jingo to you all. I hope you're having a great Friday so far. Thank you for tuning in for another episode of Egg Wars, episode 11 to be exact. And since it is 11, we're hitting dubs for the first time, so I'm going to double up the shout-outs today. So first off, the typical stuff. Shout out to my boy Arto. Shout out to my boy producer Chris. Shout out to my boy Minister Random. You know how we do. Their channel's in the description as always. If you're not subbed, go check them out. But since we're doubling up today, I'm going to do a little bit of equality as well. And I'm going to shout out a few of my favorite e-girls who I'm always seeing on Twitter that are, always tweeting good shit. So shout out to Rue. Shout out to Minmod. And shout out to Boo. You ladies and males, keep doing what you do. Keep tweeting good, and I'm gonna keep eating good because I'm a fat boy. But I'm trying to lose weight though. But anyways, before we go on, I gotta crack this real quick. I just cut my fingernails today. Have another Rockstar sip. I got one more in reserve after this one today. Damn, I'm thirsty. Then we'll be back to the old dollar store variety. You're probably going to hit the dollar store today, as a matter of fact. Now, today I want to also make this disclaimer before I hop into the topic today. This is not going to be a black pill video, so don't get it twisted. I'm not about to go on a huge black pill rant, so I apologize if that's what you're looking for. But I kind of more had this idea, people are always asking, they're like, you should do more black pill videos and everything like that. And really, it has to come to me organically. Otherwise, I do shit like where I tried to make a black pill too, just like totally, and it was faux. It was faux. It was not good. It was not what I wanted. So I don't do the shit unless I'm feeling like it. But I thought today I was like, well, what can I talk about? I'm not really in a black pill mood, but what can I really talk about? I know my boy. We had a comment on one of the videos saying, just kind of talk about like some black pill-esque experiences that I had been through, like in high school, or whatever the case was, where I was maybe being judged in a way. But the thing is that for me, it's kind of complicated, and I'm going to try and break it down a little bit today. I'm going to try and pick my brain a little bit. Maybe I'll drop a couple black pill nuggets somewhere in this time frame. But really, I'm just going to try and pick my own brain today and kind of try and see, where did this kind of culminate? You know what I mean? Like, where was it that, where does a kid turn into a teenager, turn into an older guy who's an incel, and, and comes up with, like, this black pill shit, and just, and becomes a black pilled person, I should say, because obviously it's all scientific. I didn't come up with the shit. Scientific, it's just facts, but... So... And that's part of the thing too. Before I get into the young age, I'm gonna try and start from like a young age as I think about this. But what I will say first off is that that one comment about talking about the shit when I was in high school or how I felt. The thing is that I never even knew that I never even knew anything about lookism. You know what I mean? I'm not talking about the website. I'm talking about actually lookism, the actual thing. I never knew anything about that. Like, when I was in school, I just always had my random theories. Actually, it was funny because I remember one time after I graduated, there was, I guess this can maybe be a little bit of story. So I was fresh out of high school, and when I was fresh out of high school, I had a little bit of a social circle because I had came out of this, graduated from this this sort of like prison school, delinquent school, whatever you want to say. Like for kids who couldn't do the regular school. So I graduated from there, and I was able to kind of have some friends from there because we all kind of, you would have, it wasn't unusual for somebody who graduated, 1 or 2 years beforehand to come through sometimes and chill and say hi to the teachers, especially if they'd been like a single parent or something that had graduated from there, oh, how's the kid doing, that sort of thing. So that was not unusual. So like I was able to kind of have a little bit of a social circle because we're all kind of, all down on our luck. We're all kind of, whatever the case might be. And there's still some of these people who I know that, that's that's all I knew them from, and I could still, if I ever happen to run into them, years later, they'll still say, oh, hey, Mills, what's up? What's going on? Yeah, how you doing? That sort of thing. So there was some bonds formed there, but it didn't last a real long time because I think it was probably you know, by the next year, well, I should say definitely, but definitely by the fall of 2011, you know, because I graduated, you know, spring of 2010. So by like the fall of 2011, you know, my social circle was totally gone. Like it was, you know, the last couple people had pretty much kind of, you know, said, you know, we're not fucking with you anymore. So, you know, it was, where was it going? So anyways, I'm trying to think of where this kind of place is now. It was probably, I want to say it was sometime in 2010. There was a guy who I hung out with, super cool dude, and you know, I could relate to him a lot. He was autistic, he had really bad Tourette's, and this is a guy who's a super cool dude who I would hang out with and stuff. Really awesome guy, and we were going to visit his grandparents actually, or so I'm going to visit my grandparents, and I went with him. And they went to this town where I actually had relatives from as well. You know, if you know about me, I have some Native American ancestry, and they're from Wisconsin, and it was like from the same place in Wisconsin. I'd been there as a young child and had, you know, visited some of my family up there. So I'm like, okay, let's go up there. So I go with this guy. We go visit his grandparents. That's all cool. And he had actually lived with his grandparents, I believe, at some point up there. So he knew some people that he had like gone to school up there for a couple years or something. So there's some people he knew up there, and I got familiar with these people. And there was one girl in particular who I was really attracted to, and she kind of had a sad story too, because this was at, you know, as the years went by, I think probably by like 2015, you know, she had been saving herself. She had been a virgin this whole time, and she was a virgin back at this point too, but she was young, very attractive, you know, kind of a small town, but she was, oh my god, she was beautiful, gorgeous, just like dreamy, and I had a huge crush on her, you know, because she was so attractive, but it was terrible because she was trying to save herself for the right guy. You know, she was looking for a guy who made good money and had his life together, and she was living with her parents and stuff like that. It never panned out, and she ended up like sleeping with some fucking washed up high school quarterback in her whole fucking life. I don't know where she's at now, but it wasn't good. She was older than me actually by like maybe 2 years, or maybe even 3 years. Whatever the case was. When I was up there in this small town and I was visiting these people and I was hanging out and stuff, and you know, she basically straight up negged me. I was like, you know, yo, what's up, babe? How you doing? You know, you're fine. You know, I know you're looking for the right guy. Well, you found him, babe. You know, how you doing? What's up? You know, let's have a little drink. Let's have a little smoke. What's good? You know, and she's like, yeah, get the fuck away from me, you fucking creep. And I was like, I remember we went and we were having a cigarette at some fucking basketball court. It's so weird that I can't even remember this now. Because I didn't really keep up with these people, you know, anytime in the last probably 4 years now, but we were having a cigarette by this basketball court. It was like midnight. I remember saying, I was like, God, you know, it's almost like there's a curse. It's almost like a witch cursed me or something, you know, looking back on my life, because I think I was, oh, God. I want to say I was a virgin still at this point. Because if it was like early summer 2010, that would fit. I think I was still a virgin at this point, so I was like having a cigarette. I was like, God, it's like, it just feels like I was cursed. I feel like there was a witch who cursed me or something like that, because all my experiences with women have been overwhelmingly negative. And so, you know, so that's just a little story right there that always stands out to me. Or also, because I grew up right by a nuclear power plant, I used to think that maybe that there was like something, you know, there was like nuclear runoff or some sort of thing like that had caused women to. I was like, God, maybe they're just all, because obviously, I mean, you know, if I had never really gotten red pilled or black pilled or anything like that, maybe that would still hold true, because obviously a lot of women my age, they're all, you know, oh, I don't ever want to get married, oh, I don't ever want to have kids, oh, I want to just be a fucking CEO for a goddamn, you know, or not a CEO, they want to be a CEO, they want to complain about not being a CEO after they went and got a shitty woman studies degree and majored in being a stupid fucking bitch and whining and complaining about stupid dumb shit that doesn't exist, it doesn't matter. Then they want to be a CEO, but they didn't want to go to business school though, you know. But they want to be a fucking manage Twitter. They want to manage the Twitter account of a fucking bread company or something. Well, that's very important. I can't breed. You know, check out my fur babies. I got fur babies. I mean, I'm 40 years old. I got fur babies, but that was my supervisor at my fucking job I got fired from last year. Stupidest fucking bitch ever. If this bitch ever sees, fuck you, you stupid old bitch. You know, with your little, everything all hung around, my fur babies. Well, how about you try having a real baby? Oh, right now, you're fucking like 45 years old, and you're fucking, all your eggs are gone, and you're stupid, dumb, old cunt, and I hope you die. But anyway, you know, girls my age, oh well, you know, I'm managing the Wonder Bread Twitter account. I got to tweet every day about how Wonder Bread is soft and delicious, so I can't have kids. This is much too important, you know. So if I didn't know any better, fuck, maybe I would still say there was something in the water that would make these women like totally averse to men. But at the same time, you know, I'm totally going in like 50 different tangents right now. But the chicks who were like my age group, like the ones who graduated the same year as me, the ones that I went to school with, you know, all these years, like they were objectively some of the fucking least attractive women like that I know of, and that's pretty bad. I mean, it's pretty bad. Like I'm trying to think. I mean, I was crushing on chicks couple, you know, 1, 2, 3 years older than me. I was crushing on chicks 1, 2, 3 years younger than me when I was in school and shit like that. But all the girls my age, like, they didn't really date for the most part, and they were just totally, you know, just like they didn't really date. They weren't very attractive. They were just kind of like, I don't know. There was just something like off about them. So that probably didn't help with the whole situation either. But anyways, let's dial it back a little bit here, like my original intention was 10 minutes ago when I started filming. So, with me personally, I had always had maybe an unusual attitude towards women, and I don't mean like unusual in maybe a bad way, but, you know, I probably had my first kiss when I was basically, like, as soon as I was introduced to a female is pretty much when I had my first kiss. And, like, I never really count that because, you know, it's different, I think, when you're younger. But I probably had, like, 3 different chicks who I wanted to date by the time I was maybe, like, 6 years old. Which is, I don't seem to find that to being, like, very normal. But I just remember, like, there was some girl who there was a neighbor girl who I was fucking macking on. And we had some awkward interactions as I was growing up. Anyway, but then there was this was a long time ago, man. I was, like I said, I was probably like 5 or 6 or some shit. There was a couple girls who I think they moved or something eventually. But like, it's weird. I can remember. It's so fucking weird to me because this was like a dream I had over 20 years ago probably. And there was a girl who I knew that was in like my fucking preschool class, and I had some dream where we were like riding a train together, and like it was all romantic and shit. It was really fucking weird. Cause I have to this day, I have never ridden a train, but I was having a dream where I was like riding a train with my fucking like crush when I was 4 years old or some shit. That's just how far it goes back. And like when my parents got married, you know, I was the ring bearer at their wedding, and I went, and you know, I was fucking going, and I listened to like all these love songs and shit, and I was out fucking dancing on the dance floor when I was just a little kid, you know, just busting out all these fucking moves. I was macking on chicks when I was like 5 years old. I mean, shit. I even used to go fucking do Just Be Violent Theory on girls when I was a little kid. Like, I remember I got in trouble at preschool. There was me and a kid named Seth, who was like the only guy I talked to when I was in preschool. And remember, like, the girls would play with all like they had like little. I don't know how it is these days. This probably isn't politically correct anymore, so they probably changed it. But girls had like these little, they had like dolls and shit that they would play with, and like playtime. They had like these little kitchens with like rubber, you know, food or whatever and shit like that. And I remember I got in trouble because I would go. This is maybe when I had to start doing my first counseling. I would go over and I would just fucking like grab their fucking toys and shit, just fucking like throw them across the room. I would just fucking like rip it out of their hands, but you know, just fucking like go wild on them and like make all these girls cry. So that was kind of like, you know, my first sort of experience with women. It wasn't anything, you know. It was, you know, I guess I don't really know what to make of it, but I you know, I never had like a phase where, oh, girls have cooties or whatever, you know. Like, I was a fucking, you know, like from a young age, if I thought I liked a girl or whatever, I was like, I fucking like that girl, and that's all there is to it, you know. So like, then probably the next time I can remember, let's see, your first grade, I don't know if you know anything about that, but second grade, there was like, you know, a couple girls or whatever, and this was, I started kind of having interactions with a couple guys at this time, because we all played Pokemon, I think, or was what it was, I believe. They were banning the game, you know, banning the cards and shit, but one guy would like bring his Game Boy to school in the morning, like in his backpack or whatever. But the one guy had like a Pikachu Pokemon hat or whatever. And I was like, oh, I play that. And we're like, oh, you know, we're talking about Pokemon and stuff. That's how it all starts. But then like there was some girl that he had a crush on, and I remember I believe this was second grade. Now, I didn't really have a lot of elementary social interaction, just for a couple of reasons. For one, I think it was starting in third grade. If we didn't do our homework, I believe this was in third grade, if we didn't do our homework, we weren't allowed to have recess time. We would have to spend our recess time doing our homework. And I pretty much never did my homework ever. The whole time I was in school, from the time I was a kid until the time I was older, I pretty much never did my homework ever. So I never really had recess after like third grade, for one. You know, and when I did have recess, I feel like I've mentioned this in some video before, but I read a lot of GamePro magazine. I read a lot of Electronic Gaming Monthly magazine. And one of my favorite, there was a comic in them of like two Asian guys in Electronic Gaming Monthly, and then also Sean Baby, if you're familiar with him, he wrote for, I want to say he wrote articles for both of those at some point. But I really like these, and they're all full like really witty, snooty humor, so I would fucking just basically like read these and memorize the jokes, and then go sit by myself at recess and fucking like tell myself the jokes, which sounds totally autistic, and I was extremely autistic. Maybe that was the video. Maybe that's one I did, the Ask Eggy about autism. Maybe that was one I talked about that in. In any case, so in second grade, this guy, he made this girl like a wedding ring out of tinfoil, I think it was. And he basically like brought this over to her, and he's like, oh, you know, you're my crush, so here's this tinfoil wedding ring. And she fucking stomps on it or whatever and like laughs at him. She's like, ew, boys have cooties. That was probably like the first time I really experienced a girl like kind of, you know, basically like BTFOing another guy. But I mean, I'm trying to think now. I had some other weird shit. Like, I remember I was maybe in fourth grade. I used to go to fucking Kmart when that existed back then. I would like go to Kmart, and they had these like quarter machines, like where you put like the quarter in and you like turn it and you get like a random toy or random, you know, prize capsule or whatever. There was one I got that was actually cool as fuck. I can still remember this, which is also insane, but I think this was fourth grade. I'd gone with like maybe my grandparents or something when they were grocery shopping, and I had put my little quarter in there to get my little prize. And sometimes I got like a little rubber band gun and shit like that. It was cool. But I got one time, this is crazy. This is so crazy to me that they even made some shit like this. But it was a little journal. It was actually a little journal, maybe about, I don't know, the size of like a matchbook maybe or so. And it had a little like Velcro. It had like Velcro on each side and had like a little strap. This is for a quarter. And it actually had like several pages where you could actually like try and like, you know, write. You know, you could maybe fit like fucking 4 or 5 words or some shit on a page. But I would bring it to school. And I remember this still, because I remember I probably found that I saw this at some point in my high school years again, so that's just why I'm remembering it now. Otherwise, you know, it's lost to time. But I was like writing stuff down about which girls I thought, oh, this girl's cute. Oh, that girl did this today. This girl today, she was wearing a pink shirt. Today this girl was doing whatever. So I think we could probably, well, let's see here. And then in 5th grade, there was some girl who I had a crush on because she was kind of fat, and so she was the first girl that was developing breasts. And I've always been 100% more in appreciation of tits compared to ass. So basically, you know, she's like the first chick with tits. So I'm like, oh, you know, and she wasn't very attractive. She was kind of like homely and fat. So I was like, okay, hey, you know, I'm kind of, you know, whatever. I was a weirdo. So I'm like, okay, well then maybe we're cool or whatever. And I remember she approached me someday and she was like, ew, gross, don't have a crush on me. And I'm like, okay, sorry. So I think we could probably gauge just from this point so far, from like, you know, the young to the, you know, like the elementary age years, you know, it was very difficult for me to develop social connections. When I did develop social connections, you know, it was usually a volatile thing. I mean, I was in the Boy Scouts and stuff at this time, so that was cool, that was kind of fun, but it was like, you know, there was still, even outside of those Boy Scout meetings, there was, you know, there was social cliques, and I wasn't really clicking up anywhere, you know what I mean? Like, there was a couple people who I was friends with when I was really younger, but by the time I was, like, going into junior high, you know, like, it wasn't so much anymore. And let's see here, junior high. Junior high is, like, I guess, to me, is really where I can start, you know, placing some social anxieties developing, you know, because it was different, you know, we all had our our elementary schools. There was 3 different elementary schools, but once you got into junior high, everybody was coming together. So like you're meeting all kinds of new people. You know, the school was my elementary school was in my neighborhood. Like I walked there every day. You know, now I was taking a bus, and so it was like different. It was, you know, there was some anxieties forming because of that. I'm trying to think though. God, crushes in junior high. Well, I mean the fucking one I talked about in the cringy thing. I'm trying to think. But basically, you know, I still hadn't, you know, in junior high itself, I hadn't, you know, there wasn't probably anything really of note because it was still kind of the same shit, you know, like some girls were attractive, but I never really approached girls at this time. You know, there was some stuff like, you know, probably starting towards the latter period of, you know, junior high, you know, maybe some people started dating if they were dating early or whatever, but it was mostly still just, you know, I had social problems. I could not connect with people in a social way very well. You know, girls kind of laughed at me, you know, for being a fucking weirdo and whatever else. And so there was things like that, you know. I think probably, I'm trying to just think here, I think in junior high, by the end of junior high, it was probably starting to develop for me where it wasn't so much like, you know, I was starting to take things a little more personally maybe. So like, when girls would like laugh at me or whatever for being a fucking ugly, smelly, weirdo creep, you know, I mean, sure, I fucking deserved it, I'm certain, you know, I would totally believe that, but I would, you know, it started to kind of stick to me a little bit because it wasn't, you know, it was like, oh, I'd go home and I'd be like, oh, that fucking stupid bitch, you know, who does she think she is to fucking make fun of me or blah, 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 whatever. And so then you kind of had, you know, but nothing's still probably too much, but then it was kind of like in June, or once I got into high school, like in 9th grade, you know, that's when I was determined to be, you know, mentally disabled. That's when I had to start taking all special education classes. I'm trying to think what else, you know, and that was starting to be some other types of, God, I'm trying to think what was I gonna, you know, everything was just, you know, everything just kind of increasingly became a little more severe, I guess you could say, because like where, you know, when you're, you know, maybe 10 years old, okay, well, you don't have any friends, but, you know, whatever, okay, maybe if you go to junior high, you'll find some cool people like, okay, well, junior high, oh shit, it didn't happen. You know, now you're in high school and you still have nobody and you're still fucking spending all your time alone, eating lunch alone every single day. You know, a lot of times I wouldn't even eat lunch because, like I wouldn't have money to buy lunch. I wouldn't have any money in my lunch account, and I just didn't even care. I was like, I didn't even want to be at lunch. You know what I mean? So I would get I'd get the fucking free lunch, which would be like a piece of peanut butter bread, and I would just fucking sit by myself. And it was, you know, but it was this social thing. It was like the lack of socialization. You know, it kind of had an effect on me. I think, you know. To where, but at this time also as well in high school and things like that, it's you kind of go, like I said, everything gets a little more severe. So it goes from being like, you know, somebody says I don't want to hang out with you, to being like, oh, okay, now it's like, you know, the shit's been going on for a while now, to where it's like, you know, you're still trying to form social connections, and people are like, no, I don't want to be seen with you, no, I don't want anything to do with you, and it's like you get. It's like it stings, you know, I don't know, it's weird because people have told me, they're like, well, why, you know, if it's happening so much, you should be like immune to it or whatever, you know, if you get rejected by 100 girls, you shouldn't feel it anymore. And to a degree with that, it was, for me, it was like, I could, when I went to look for the social interaction, or when I went to look for a romantic interaction or whatever, to look for it, to approach somebody and blah, 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 whatever, that much didn't, you know, that was okay, but it was like, I still took it very severely when I would get a rejection of some kind. Like, I would fucking go into a rage, and maybe that had something to do with autism. I feel like autism and social dysfunction is is a very strong component in all of these things, because I think there's a degree where when you're not neurotypical, like people who are neurotypical and they form social connections and shit, and there's like not a problem. I think that's the first time I ever finished one of these during the video. You know, it's like they kind of have like this thing where they can connect to each other and it's super fluid and there's no problem. But when you're autistic, it's like they they just know, like there's just, they can smell it on you or something, you know, and sometimes if you're like really autistic, they, you know, you actually stink. But that's part of why you see guys who, you know, they lift and things like that, and they do these things to looks max, and they have good bodies, and they maybe have a tattoo, and they're styling out in the best outfits or whatever, but like still, there's just like something, this like disconnect from a neurotypical to an autist, to where it's like, there's just some kind of disconnect, and like it can't, you know, there's just like, they don't know what to do, you know what I mean? It's like there's just no fucking, there's no fix for it in a way. Which I guess is just more Blackpill 1 talk there, but I'm trying to think. So, you know, in high school, I'm taking special education classes and shit, and that's, you know, that's hurting my social, you know, I mean, fuck. Did I have any kind of social anything? I don't even know. You know, I guess when I was in junior high, I was doing some petty crimes and shit that gave me a little bit of street cred and that sort of stuff. And that continued up until into high school. I was still doing petty crimes and drugs when I was in high school, so I still had that for what that's worth. But really, after like my sophomore year of high school, I kind of started going into like the full, always gaming, always MMO, World of Warcraft, Phantasy Star Online, that sort of stuff. So whatever I had there was kind of going away. But then again, at the same time, you know, I was having some social interaction online there, which, I mean, I had to a degree. You know, I was on Newgrounds and stuff like that, but that certainly was not a healthy outlet. We're all just a bunch of fucking like supreme autists, you know, with our like internet slang, our particular sect of internet culture at that time, you know, which was, you know, really, you know, this is Facebook. People weren't using Facebook really, you know, this Instagram, Snapchat, all that shit didn't even exist. Twitter didn't exist. All that was all, you know, didn't even exist. So it was like that wasn't even anything, you know, at that point. We had our own particular cultivated way of interacting. So I think then really, maybe that's part of it too, is that, you know, I sort of had no social connection in a real life setting, but once everything was on the internet, you know, and which was, you know, a subject of mockery at the time, if you were having a lot of your social interaction on the internet, that was cause for concern. People were laughing at you, ha ha ha. Now everybody's doing it, you know what I mean? But at that time it was like, oh, you know, oh, so much cooler online, fucking dweeb nerd, you know, whatever. But, so there was part of that disconnect there, and especially, you know, then as I go on through high school, and I wanted to drop out of high school just to play World of Warcraft all day, because that was like, that's social. I'm accepted by these people. You know, I know how to do this. I know how to do my rotation. I know how to get geared. I know how to do PvP. I know how to do arena. You know, I know how to do all this shit. So like, I'm getting appreciation from people online that I'm never getting in real life. You know what I mean? I'm doing something for these people that I can never had the chance to do when I was younger. So let's hear. I'm gonna run out of time if I kind of keep on elaborating so fully. But you know, basically it's the same shit. Time goes on. You know, I go out of high school. Eventually graduate. The social circle dies off because I'm fucking autistic. Nobody, you know, I'm other. I'm not somebody that is good to be around. I'm not somebody that that people want around. I'm the autistic weirdo. Whatever. I can't connect with people. But you know, those people. You know, so it's like, get away from that guy. So I lose my social connections, you know, after high school that the few that I had, and basically, I guess, you know, a lot more social isolation. I attempted, you know, I've told people about this before. I think I mentioned it in the original video where I was talking about making a Blackpill 2. You know, this was like right after Blackpill 1, to where I had gotten rejected by every possible girl that I knew. Like I fucking was like scouring, you know, first I was like in my town, I'm trying to ask out every girl I could find because I just want, you know, I have no social anything, you know what I mean? I'm totally fucking isolated from the world, total isolation, no way to get out. So I'm trying to fucking, you know, I got a job or whatever, okay, cool. I'm trying to ask a girl, let's go to the movies, no, and I'm fucking asking out all these girls for whatever, and da-da-da-da-da. Eventually, I actually ran out of women that I didn't even know, you know, I fucking had to sit. And I had this happen with OkCupid too, like to where you actually ask out, or you try and fucking message every single girl on OkCupid, and you actually have to like leave it for like, you know, a couple months, go back, see if there's any new chicks who signed up, or any chicks who were like, maybe they were 17, now they're 18, so they're good, you know, they're able to be approached and asked out, that sort of thing. I mean, that's why I was fucking started in my town, ran out of girls, fucking went like 15-20 mile radius out of town, and I was da-da-da-da going on and on and on until I had accumulated like triple digit rejections, you know, after, you know, I was high school, college, and stuff like that. Because, I mean, even when I was in college, I mean, there was probably maybe, like, fucking, oh, God, I don't even know. Because the thing about college chicks, too, is that they're actually fucking the worst. Like, there was one girl who I could, well, actually, two girls who I could think of, looking back, that were really material, that would be, like, any good to date. And there was one girl who was homeschooled, very, very shy, very, very, you know, just like, you know, probably a lot of guys' dream girls, but, you know, she was, you know, it was the place I was at, like, there was nobody like me who would see it that way. Then there was one girl, too, who was 18, and she was kind of dorky, very, very kind, and whatever like that. But a lot of these other girls, you know, fucking tattooed, single mothers, oh, you know, proud sluts, blah, 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 whatever, you know, you didn't want to go anywhere near that, you know what I mean? So it was like, as time went on, you know, going from basically social isolation to continued social isolation, and like you're kind of go nuts maybe in a way, and you're just trying to fucking break out, and you just want to, you know, fucking break that through that ceiling, you know what I mean, and try and get out and try and, you know, you're like, I know I can do this, I know I could be a normal fucking person probably if people would just give me a fucking chance, but at the same time, if you're considered, it's a fucking hive mind thing, if you're considered to be, you know, you're not socially acceptable. You're not the right kind of human being, that you don't make the cut. You know what I mean? So if somebody fucking grabs you by the hand and says, "Hello, my friend," everybody around is gonna be like, "Oh, that guy, that must be on some." You know, these guys are both now. The person who fucking reaches out and gives you that chance, they have a stigma. They have something against them. So most people aren't gonna want to do that. They're not gonna want to. You know, or they're gonna be like, "Oh no, guys, this is all pity. This is pity. This guy's a fucking loser retard." Then you're looking over and you're like, "Well, I don't want your pity. Then, you know, get away from me. If that's all I'm used, some kind of fucking, you know, look at me and, you know, smash my like button for pitying this retard." You know what I mean? So I think, you know, then we only got like a couple minutes left here. So it's a social isolation thing, and it kind of leads to, you know, eventually. I mean, I was, you know, certain when you're going to the internet for your social for any kind of social anything, you know, that's the only interaction you have is with internet, and you just have a tendency to fall into, you know, like-minded groups. And then I was like, oh shit, that's totally my same experience. And then I started doing some of the research, you know, from like PUA hate and slut hate, MISC. They were the ones who kind of put me on like the scientific shit, you know, about like bone law and all these different theories and things like that. So I started soaking it in, and it all just makes so much sense. And I'm doing research. I'm up, you know, that's all my free time I'm spending, is just continuously reading up on different theories and different books and documentaries and all these sort of things like that, and getting this knowledge, and really just coming to the point that I did, you know what I mean? And it's still, the black pill is still 100% true. People think that, you know, I don't believe it anymore. They're like, oh, well, you had sex with girls and stuff like that. I'm like, fuck. That doesn't disprove the black pill at all. Like, the whole fucking point of the black pill is that, you know, is guys just totally, like, you know, the whole first story in the black pill video, and I mentioned this before, is that it's people who've been together for years, and, you know, I mean, anybody who's dating, oh, she's a QT virgin, and I'm a whatever, blah, 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 and she gets fucking, you know, one night ability to have that superior male, and she doesn't give a shit. She just throws it all away to, you know, to fulfill that urge. So I guess, summary, I guess black-pilled person is probably just somebody who fucking is kind of chosen to be a social reject, but they understand the whole situation, they understand where the world's heading, and that the fucking normal fags are a bunch of retards that are gonna, you know, push the whole world in some kind of horrible peril, and society's fucked, everything's fucked, and it's all gonna just come crashing to an end, and we're all gonna die. Anyways, thank you all for tuning in for another episode of EggWars. Good to leave you on that note, and we'll catch you next time.